Yo guys, it's Cosmos here, and today I'm going to be covering the ultimate guide for beginners switching to keyboard and mouse in Fortnite. I'm going to be covering the best keybinds, settings, keyboards, mice, and a whole bunch more in this video, so be sure to stay tuned until the end. With that said guys, YouTube tells me that over 95% of you guys that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so it would mean the absolute world to me if you could go right below this video and hit that thick subscribe button and the like button and turn on noties, because I make videos like this all the time. And with that being said, let's jump right into the video. To kick off this video, I wanted to cover what keyboard switches and keyboards are best for beginner players. Firstly, we're going to cover exactly what the difference between switches is. So for starters, we have our linear switches. This would include your red switches, which I personally use on all of my keyboards. Linear switches are quiet and produce no audible bump or click sound when they are pressed. They are really smooth and also very consistent. The next switch type we have is our tactile switches, which would be your brown switches. These switches do produce an audible bump as they get pressed, and they produce a moderate amount of noise. Brown switches are also known for being pretty beginner friendly. For our last switch type, we have clicky switches, which would include your blue switches. These switches are notoriously super loud, produce a very audible click as they get pressed, and they also produce a bump when they get pressed as well. Now, linear switches, tactile switches, and clicky switches come in all different kinds, not just red, browns, or blues, but to keep this video as to the point as possible, we're only going to be covering the most common switches out of all the different switch types. Now you're probably wondering which of the three switch types are best for gaming. Now to find this out, we're going to cover the actuation point of each switch, meaning the amount of force needed to activate the switch. Cherry MX red switches have an actuation force of 45 grams, Cherry MX brown switches have an actuation force of 55 grams, and Cherry MX blue switches have an actuation force of 60 grams. While these numbers are based on Cherry branded switches, which are among some of the most popular switches for keyboards, it's safe to assume that any branded red, brown, or blue switch will be within these actuation force ranges. Based on these actuation points, the best switches to use for gaming are the red switches because they have the lowest actuation point out of the three. This therefore makes them better for pressing lots of keys on your keyboard in a much more rapid succession because you don't need to press as hard to activate the switch. Unlike the Cherry MX blues or browns, which require 55 grams for browns and 60 grams of pressure for blues respectively. Playing with red switches for long gaming sessions may be the more comfortable option due to the low actuation force needed to activate the switch. Please keep in mind though that switches are personal preference, and if you like the clicky feel of switches, don't hesitate to purchase a keyboard with clicky switches just because they aren't the most optimal for gaming. You can still become a pro using blue switches. Just take Clicks for example. He's currently rocking the custom Matrix Clicks keyboard with blue switches, so I mean it definitely is possible to become an insane player using clicky switches, so just go ahead and pick which switches you like the best. If you want to test out switches, I recommend either going to a store like Best Buy or Micro Center or any tech shop near you that has keyboards out on display and give them a try. In doing so, find out which switch feels best to you and purchase a keyboard with your desired switches. For the next section of the video, we're going to talk keyboards, and I'm going to cover the best keyboards that I've used that I recommend to beginners. All of the keyboards that I recommend are going to be 60% keyboards, which lots of pro players use because it gives them extra room for their mouse and leaves them with more desk space. So for starters, I'm gonna have to recommend the Dyra DK63. This keyboard comes in at around $60, and I have a full review video coming out about this keyboard within the next few days, just so you guys can see how good of a keyboard this is. The build quality is awesome, the red linear switches sound amazing, and it's one of my favorite medium budget range keyboards that I've ever used. The next keyboard I recommend is the Ducky 1-2 Mini. This was one of my first 60% keyboards, and it's another amazing keyboard. While it can be quite pricey, coming in at around $100, the build quality is really good, and I also use red linear switches on that keyboard, and they also sound really nice. Personally though, I would choose the Dyra DK63 over the Ducky 1-2 Mini because it's cheaper, and in my opinion it's higher quality, but both options are amazing for beginner players. Like I said with the switches, keyboards, keybinds, and everything else mentioned in this video is personal preference, and there's no objective best keyboard, keybinds, or best anything. So this video is just my own opinion on the best things for beginners, but you might disagree with some of the keybinds, keyboards, or other recommendations I make, and that's totally fine. Tailor your setup settings and everything how you like it and not how I tell you if you don't want to. And here you guys go. These are my beginner keybinds for you guys. So I'm using WASD for my movement. Jump is on spacebar. Auto run is on equals. That's just the default. My crouch is on left control. My reload is on R. My use is on E. My harvesting tool is on tab. My weapon slot 1 is on 1 on my keyboard, and weapon slot 2 through 5 is on 2 through 5 on my keyboard as well. Crouch while building is left control. My wall is on my thumb mouse button, and as you guys know, in every single settings video that I do, I recommend that you guys have a mouse with 2-side mouse buttons. Later in the video, I cover some mice that I recommend that have 2-side mouse buttons, so if your mouse doesn't have one already, maybe consider picking up one of the ones I recommend later in the video. But if you do have a mouse with 2-side mouse buttons, I'm going to have a little diagram on the screen showing exactly what I mean here. So for your wall, set it to your back mouse button and put your floor on Q on your keyboard, and then put your stairs as your thumb mouse button too, or your forward mouse button as I like to call it. Again, there's a little diagram on the screen explaining exactly what I'm talking about. And your roof, which is your pyramid key, put that on C. Put your trap on T. Your repair/upgrade, put that on G. Put your building edit on F, and we are using scroll wheel reset, which I recommend to everyone. Everyone should be using scroll wheel reset, especially as a beginner player. It's going to make your life so much easier. So it's super simple to set up, guys. All you guys need to do is just click the second option right beside your building edit. So you have F as your first option, go to the second option, and then scroll wheel up, and it's going to be right there for you. And then what you want to do is go right down to the reset building edit, click the first option, scroll wheel up, and it's going to be all set up for you, and scroll wheel reset is now fully enabled. And guys, that's pretty much it for the keybinds. Let's hop right into the next part of the video. And now we're going to hop into the next section of the video, and that's going to be the best mouse that you can buy for beginners. In a previous video of mine, I mentioned how important light mice are and that you should be using them if you want to get good at Fortnite. But as of late, I've actually changed my stance on using a lighter mouse in Fortnite. While using a lighter mouse can make you aim faster and flick easier, it honestly doesn't matter which mouse weight you have for your mouse. And the reason I'm saying this is because we literally have Mongrel, one of the greatest Fortnite players to exist, still playing on a 144 gram Logitech G402. And while lots of pro players are using Final Mouse mice, which usually come in at around 50 to 60 grams, Mongrel's mouse is over double that weight, and he is still one of the best Fortnite players to ever touch the game. So with that said, if you have a mouse currently that you like and it's heavy, don't just switch to a lighter mouse just because I recommend it. I'm gonna circle back to when I mentioned that preference is everything, and if you like your heavy mouse, stick with it because you like it, and don't just switch off your mouse because you think a lighter one will make you better, because that's just not always going to be the case. With that said though, the mice I do recommend that I have tried out are the Logitech G Pro Wireless, which comes in at 80 grams. It is pricey, coming in at around $100, but I love the side mouse buttons on this mouse, and it just has an amazing ambidextrous shape to it that I also love, and it feels really good to me. And another mouse I recommend is the Glorious Model O. This mouse has pretty nice side mouse buttons, and it also has a really good feel in the hand as well. It comes in at $50 for the matte version and $60 for the glossy, and I personally use the matte version because it just feels better in my opinion, and it's also super light, coming in at just 69 grams. The last part of this video we're going to go over is sensitivity. You hear lots of YouTubers and pro players say that one sensitivity is better than the other, when that just isn't the case. There are advantages and disadvantages to high versus low sense, and I made a whole in-depth video on sensitivity about 2 months ago, so if you would like to check that video out, click the card in the top right hand corner or the link in the description. But to briefly summarize that video, I mentioned that using a lower sense will be better in helping you hit more shots consistently, while using a higher sense on the other hand will make your gameplay feel faster paced, and if you're using a smaller mouse pad, it allows you to do a full 360 on a smaller surface, and finding a good sensitivity for you can take a long time. So what I recommend you do is just find your favorite pro player's sensitivity and just start making adjustments and testing it out until you find the sweet spot. If you would like to use my sensitivity as a guide to make adjustments, my current sensitivity and DPI are on the screen so you can use it as a starting point. And with that being said, guys, I really hope that you all enjoyed today's video, and I hope that I was able to make your transition to keyboard and mouse just a little bit easier with this video. I've been meaning to make this video for a few months now, and I hope that you were able to learn something new from this video. If you did like this video and want to see more like it in the future, please like this video and subscribe to the channel with my post notifications turned on, just so you guys never miss any of my future videos. And if you would like to support me further, please use my support at creator code Cosmos in the Fortnite item shop for a cookie. And thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.